Misty Cook is back for a second interview. Welcome back, Misty.
Thank you very much for having me again.
There are only a few people in the Two Timers Club, so I'm glad to get to do this again. And we were just talking offline about the success of your business. We're going to get to that, but we want to start off with the theme of this season, and that is Scott Manthorne's book, The Military Effect. Uh, you, of course, were a one of 50 subjects. And I want to just understand and help the audience understand, how did you connect to Scott to be part of this project?
I think Scott found me. He was a follower, or at least somebody in his network had said to reach out to me. And I think, as he navigated building, he's done such a good job on building such a breadth in depth of different types of veterans at different ranks, at different genders, with different jobs. And so he found me through LinkedIn, actually, and had offered an opportunity that I really couldn't pass up. So meeting 49 other friends is definitely a part of my, you know, plan as far as building a network.
So when Scott asked you to do an interview and be the subject of a chapter, was that a surprise?
Yeah, for sure. I think just the same way that people kind of give me a little grief about helping retired generals and flag officers. I felt kind of the same way in the sense of like, why do you want to know about little old me? It was a little surprising, but I also appreciate that sometimes you have to, um, you know, not forget like where you've come from and who you can inspire, and not everybody looks like a fighter pilot or looks like a general officer. There's some just people that come from a small town of 8,000 with a stoplight and make the Marine Corps a home. So that was me, and so I was able to tell that story.
So help us out there. Town of 8,000, where was that?
Yeah, in Southeast Texas, near the border of Louisiana, near Beaumont, Texas. So about an hour and a half, 2 hours from Houston. Mhm.
So the idea that our story may not be that appealing to others, I think that's just an indicator of humility that's fairly typical of most veterans, right?
I don't know. I think the majority of people don't find themselves very interesting. I mean, we do the best we can, and we hope that we're making an impact. And I'm grateful for my service. I think that the quote about wondering if you made a difference, and Marines don't have that problem. I think is so true, because I look back and think if I could have spent 20 years doing a lot of different things, and that's something I'm really proud of, and have to now be able to do anything I want to do. And so creating my business was, I felt like it was my turn, and I did what I was supposed to do for the first 20 years of my life.
So let's hear you brag about the business a little bit. I know something about it, but tell the audience what it is that you're doing.
Yeah. So whenever I retired, it was about 5 years before I retired, I knew I wanted to start a company that supported retired generals and flag officers. And I say that, but it's really not uh, just segmented for those people or that rank. It's just that typically is who becomes consultants. And so I always tell people, if the master guns or the colonel wanted to become a consultant, then I would help them build their business as well. It's just that that's the typical rank of going independent and being a consultant. But I spent those last 10 years in and out of the Pentagon supporting active duty general officers administratively, as a staff secretary, as an adjutant, as the protocol officer for the commandant. And all of these opportunities allowed for me to really watch what it was like a day in the life of a general officer, because I could see from 7 in the morning to, sometimes 10, 11 o'clock at night, just the amount of requirements. And in order for them to be very successful, it took a team of people to make sure they knew where they were going, how to get there, who are they going to talk to, who's in the room, what do they want to talk about when they get there, where's the car, then get back to the Pentagon, where's lunch, what are we having for lunch? It just kept going, and it was like that every single day. And so I had identified that same pace can occur when they retire. but they are all by themselves. And so there's no staff for them. And that's when I decided, you know what, I've been doing this for 20 years and I understand what they need and how they need it. I'm going to build a team around those retirees that want to be consultants, that are independent consultants, to give them that executive team and the support they need. And so when I started to build that is when I identified that there's something important about that second half. But to start a business, you don't immediately start and just have contracts and have opportunities, and you don't really need that assistance yet. But what you do need is somebody to help you navigate building the business, getting your LLC, getting a domain, getting, a CRM, getting capabilities, and then starting to brand yourself so people know that you're out there. And so that's why I started a 16-week program that builds in that executive assistant team, but also helps them navigate building and branding their business so people know to reach out to them in the first place. Because, you retire and you kind of like go off into the sunset, but they don't know like, oh, General Smith is a retired 4-star and he's available for work, or we could use him at this board or this, whatever it is, advisory panel. So I just wanted to help the same men and women. There's a lot of veteran organizations and networks out there, but they're not really positioned for executive leadership. There's a lot of, sergeants, lieutenant colonels, people going to get jobs. There's a lot of people helping veterans get jobs, but not necessarily are they helping them support their business when they are independent. So that's where I thought I could help because that's what I had done for 20 years. So I just kind of made it up as I went with a little bit of market research, but uh-oh, you're
Research.
up. Oh, there you are. You were on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. Dave, take that out. Thank you. You lived the market research.
No, that's valid.
Yeah.
No, that's true. But I also retired and reached out to about 30 generals that were consultants and said, what did you wish you had? How long did it take you to build this? What kind of experts did you reach out to make sure, did you have a contracts attorney? Did you have a stylist? Did you have a website designer? And then I started to network and build all of those experts around me because I wasn't about to start learning all that. But if I can say, come to me and I will give you the roadmap, and then I will tell you when we need to talk to all those experts and not to do it before or after, because you need a business before you can have a checking account. So don't go buy QuickBooks and pay 3 months when you don't have an account to give it, And so it was about helping them navigate that space in the right order without wasting time, and then to do it quickly because the average general officer told me that it was about 8 to 12 months before they felt really comfortable with how to navigate their business. They were kind of figuring it out as they went. But if I can do it in 3 or 4 months, then I can make up a lot of time, which is also equal to money and frustration. Because, frankly, the most important thing that they will always say is more time with their family because the life that they led it was a lot of sacrifice on their family's part. And so if I can make that the time that instead of them trying to Google what's an LLC, but I can just give them the reasons why they should have an LLC or an S Corp and then give them an expert to talk to and just solve their problem in 20 minutes, then 3 hours of Google, then they can go out on the porch and, drink tea and hang out. So it's all about, helping my fellow veteran. And it just so happens that I had served at the executive level. And so that's where I decided to stay.
You mentioned 30 general officers. That's a substantial network. Did you have them in your Rolodex, or did they come 1 or 2 layers removed? Was that an example of networking at the highest level?
No, actually, they were in my network because I had served in the Pentagon, and one of the offices I worked in used to plan and host every executive offsite, which is every 3-star, and then the General Officer Symposium, which is every general officer in the Marine Corps. And so I had been there for 3 years, and then I had gone back to the Pentagon after I went to school. And so I had developed, in the E-ring or especially in the Marine Corps service, I don't recall, I think I did get a couple of introductions from those generals to other services, but I didn't anticipate it being much different. than any other general officer. But those were my Marine Corps network that I used that I knew were out there getting jobs. And I mean, I even talked to people that got jobs, right? That were working 4 stars, that were working in contracting companies and other positions, to find out, why did you not go to consulting? Because you can make a ton of money and you can sit on boards and you don't have to work the 9 to 5. And so I need to get my head around, why did they not go get a job? Because if it's something that I can mitigate, which for the most part it is, there are some people that just don't want, consulting is business development and marketing and coaching and all the things in one. And not everybody wants to do business development. They would rather go to a job, and then they are given a mission. And so it's not for everybody, but for some, it may be that it just gets too hard to manage because they have so much coming at them and they don't have a team. And so that's why I knew if I could provide them an executive assistant and people coordinating their lives, then we could be a little bit more similar to what they were used to.
As influential as your network is in terms of the seniority at which they served and continue to perform post active duty, I'm reminded of the saying that niches make riches, in that you have actually a pretty narrow target population that you aim to serve.
Yeah, I do. What's the question?
Well, I think there's a learning point here, in that some people go out and they try to boil the ocean and take on too much, and they miss that when you can clearly define what are the boundaries and what is the lane and where is your expertise, great things can come from that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. And you know what, as an entrepreneur and as you're building, because there's no roadmap for what you want to build. You're like, okay, I think this is what I want to do. And then every day you're like, there's shiny objects. And so I think you're right. It's very easy to get distracted by other things or other opportunities or things that take away from what you're supposed to be doing. And so you're right. It could have been, there was times that I would get distracted in my own time of like, I should be able to help other people or do other things. And I would have veterans. And so now, because in order to kind of combat that problem, which is not a problem, but to stay in my lane and to be very disciplined about it, like I have one day that I will help any veteran, just as a strategy call, and it's on Tuesday. Right. And so I think it's about trying to figure out what works for everybody, because the sergeant wants transition discussion and everybody is pretty similar, or at least has, needs an introduction to a particular person in that industry. So I absolutely, I expand my support to the veteran community. But when it comes to my business, I had talked to enough people. I had 2 investors in 1 week say, stay very niche, like, because you want to be able to duplicate what you're doing in other verticals. And if you start to go outside, then you aren't going to get really good at what you're doing. And so, and it happened in the same week where I was almost about to take a leap and do something a little outside what I had started. So, so I think you're right. It does. It's hard though, because there's so many other ways to help, but you just have to stay really disciplined.
Can you give a shout out to a mentor that made a key difference along the way?
Oh, without a doubt, Lieutenant General Reynolds. She'll be forever my family. I served with her twice in my career, and she was not. I don't know if you've ever read the book. Find a sponsor. It's like I can't think of the book title perfectly, but it was basically like there's a mentor and a sponsor. And mentors help you and they help you navigate. But sponsors, they say your name in a room of opportunity. And she was that for me. And not only that in the service, but she was my first client. And that's the hardest thing to get, when somebody believes in you and says, I believe in what you're doing. And she's still my client. So for sure, Lieutenant General Reynolds will forever be my family.
That's a key distinction there, mentor and sponsor. But the same concept exists in the corporate world. Sometimes we call them by different names, but that sponsorship and two-way commitment is
That's right.
powerful.
Well, and honestly, whenever you know they are sponsoring you and they're saying your name, when there's an opportunity that comes up and they put you forward, or they're, it's not just helping you kind of guide through your career or giving you some advice, So what you do, you're representing them, So it's just a lot more powerful because when you go to places, they put you in that room, then you want to perform, because it really looks good or bad on them. So.
Those that are moving into consulting that
Yeah.
you're helping at this high level, do you find any that have either an unrealistic expectation or an idealistic expectation of what that post active duty life could be?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I think it's the reason they come, or the reason why they want, a partner, is because it is an unknown and they're trying to figure out what's the best way. Um, and there are people that believe when they retire that their name is notable amongst people in this town. And for some, it's not saying that like their title and their accomplishments aren't notable, but you're going to have to be able to articulate that in a conversation and then be able to share what you did. And then it will be remarkable, but it doesn't mean they know you right when you walk in the door. Um, my husband was calling. So that noise you heard was my husband. So Dave, right? Um, we're gonna let Dave take that out. So yes, I do believe that there are people that are navigating that don't really know exactly what it's going to take. And so for some, they're like, oh, Bob, you'll just get out there and people are going to be falling all over themselves to hire you. And for the most part, I mean, there are some people because they have name recognition, but there are some that their accomplishments are incredible, but they are going to have to learn how to articulate what they did in order to have that second and third conversation to share all the things they did that were amazing. And so if you aren't good at dissolving that into a conversation, that can be really hard, And then the other thing is selling yourself, understanding that conversation, that sales call, that maybe the first or second call you have this conversation about, well, that sounds good, I think I could help you. But there is a shift in the conversation that you have to have that says, here's how I can help you, and articulate how do you deliver your consulting to that person so that they're like, they've got this aha moment that says, well, I have to have that. And there are times that it just keeps batting back and forth for months because nobody can take this and say, it's now a sales call. I have to quit giving away free information and say, take it or leave it. And that's hard, because we've never had to sell. You're laughing. Why are you laughing? You know that there is a moment.
Free opportunity in Washington to give away all your money by people asking you to contribute to various things. But there are all sorts of people who want to pick your brain endlessly for the things that you may know or may be able to help with that have value. And if you're in the business of consulting, that yes, that there is a
They'll keep
value.
calling. Yeah. No, that's so true. It's like, okay, you have to put a limit. And I think it's really helpful if you start the conversation with, I would love to talk to you. I offer a 30-minute discovery call to see if we're a good fit. Let them know up front you offer 30 minutes. And then after that, like there's a fee because they're going to keep calling you.
Was there an individual or a scenario that sort of pulled the curtain back for you and showed you how to do some of these things and then how you might uh, translate it for others?
Yeah. Jerome Kelly was retiring 5 years before he had just retired about 5 years before I did. And I spoke to him at one of the retired EOSs and I asked him how things were going. And he was the one that listed out, it, these are things I'm looking for. I'm picking up the phone. There's no lawyer coming down the hall anymore. There's, my calendar is empty. My this is that. Like, people are calling me. I need to get on a call. He just kind of listed out because I'd asked him, how's retirement? And he's like, oh, Misty. And then he gives me these things. And so that was my kind of epiphany moment. I could tell you where I was standing, that I'm like, I'm going to recreate the G level staff, you know, and I'm going to have a speechwriter. I'm going to have a person, I'm going to have a driver that picks people up. I'm going to have a stylist that gives tailored suits, all the things that you possibly could need as an independent consultant. I'm going to build out the team. And he gave me that, you know, so now I have a contracts attorney that can run down the hall figuratively. And so, yeah, definitely General Kelly was that for me.
Any counsel that you would offer to other veterans who are likely listening to this and trying to glean something from the military effect? What are some nuggets that you share?
Yeah, I think the most important thing to me is the people that you meet aren't necessarily people that are in place or in your lives that are supposed to help you. That person may be the entry point to another person that's going to make an entry point to another person, and you actually aren't going to meet the person you're supposed to meet for 4 or 5 months. But you have to keep saying yes and navigating through people. And what you do with all of those introductions are you become curious. You ask great questions as if they were your ideal client. And you say, who is your ideal client? Why are they your ideal client? Who would you want to meet if you could meet somebody? Who helps you, you know, and you get really curious, because what that does is when you go to the next networking event, that person standing in front of you isn't your fit, but they may be that other person's perfect fit. And because you have just asked all those really great questions, you get to make a connection. And what that does in this town is, to me, sometimes I always joke that I've done a really good job of networking. And so I can take a night off because I know there are 50 of my friends out into the DC world and they're networking. And as soon as they hear, oh, you're a retired general, oh, how's that going? You know what? I know a girl that does that. I have people out there that are actually spreading the word for me because I'm spreading the word for them. And so if you don't look at networking as an independent, you're out there looking for yourself, but you're actually building just this like phone book full of friends so that you can help them, then you're going to be so much more productive than if you're just on your own, like trying to do it every single night, because you just don't have enough time in the day.
Evangelism.
That's
It
right.
works. It works.
That's right. Yeah.
Misty Cook, thanks so much for being with us today. What a
Yeah,
great
you bet.
interview.
Thanks for having me.